this new watery province. Their livelihood are their boats and their trade. The Venetians lived on the sea. The pirates of Dalmatia were disrupting Venetian shipping. A safe Adriatic had become the joint responsibility of Venice and to the Byzantines. The Venetians captured Corfu, and they gave it back to the Byzantines, and got substantial buildings and properties in Constantinople, a secure harbor. Thousands of them would live their entire lives in the Venetian quarter of Constantinople doing business. Even more importantly, the emperor said that henceforth Venetians would trade tax-free in Byzantine port and became nouveau riche. By the end of the 11th century, Venice's population was about 50,000 people. The Christian world is getting much smaller. The Muslim world is getting much larger. And Sultan Saladin was able to unify various Muslim groups, a problem for the Byzantines. The Pope launches the First Crusade and to build an armada in local shops. Venetians were not allowed by the church to trade in Muslim ports. Henceforward, until the Fourth Crusade, Venice made a nice contract with a counterplan. The Pope, Innocent III, gave them the dispensation to trade in non-strategic goods. The Crusaders would agree to stop on the Dalmatian coast. The Byzantine emperor made an offer to help him to his throne, secure Zara. The entire city was leveled to the ground, except for the churches. 1,000 years ago, they drove very large wooden logs into the sand, very close together. The foundation on which they place the stones, the mixture of the salt water and the sand preserves these logs. More than half the population of Venice died in 1349. The Black Death comes from ships that were trading in the Black Sea. Anyone who did a lot of trading, therefore, would be among the first to get the disease. The deaths were so rapid that people could not keep up with them. Boats would go up and down the canal calling for the dead to be brought out. They would take old boats and fill the old boats with dead bodies and then sink the boats.
Cantera.
Major stop on the Grand Tour. Their empire began to collapse. Carnivale grew. They expanded. By the mid-1600s, usually start was the Epiphany, was an Ash Wednesday, so about 40 or 50,000 brought a lot of money. The first opera was staged for the paying public in 1637 in Venice for the Carnivale, 6 or 7 different opera houses in the city. And the ridotti were casinos, and these were only allowed during Carnivale. This was not a feudal state. Everything had to do with making money. Lots of entrepreneurialism. Venetians wanted no rulers. They elected a leader. In the Venetian dialect is Doge, or English Doge. The Doge is the leader. He was summoned the Orengo, the community of citizens. And St. Mark became the symbol of the Doge. Any winged lion, symbol of the communal government. The winged lion with his paw resting on a book with the words on the book, Pax Tibi Marque Evangelista Meus. That was what bound them together. Continued growth of the city, of the wealth, increasingly begin to take on some of the trappings of Byzantine emperors. Is now the second largest city in Europe, and all of its wealth from the sea, hundreds of families who are actually in this oligarchy, building power for themselves. Commissions and these councils would grow. The Great Council originally was only 40 people, the voice of the people. End of the 12th century, a doge would have to take what was called a promissione. It's the oath of office. All of those decisions would have to be approved by the ducal curia and the Great Council. With the approval of the Great Council and with the advice of the curia, elected judges would be with the doge whenever he did business. This is the beginning of what would become the ducal curia. The ground floor of the palace was built to house the Great Council. The Byzantines again request support, so the Doge sends another large Venetian fleet there to save Corfu. The naval engagement that happened would be one of the largest in the Middle Ages. By 1714, weapons of war fleets, naval technologies had really left Venice behind. the Mediterranean. It wasn't in the middle of the world any longer. You could not call this a maritime empire, but it still remained a place of great culture and extremely wealthy. A wall was built in the Middle Ages that stretched all along what is now the Riva degli Schiavoni, from Castello to Santa Maria Zobenigo, that's just west of San Marco. A chain was also now suspended across the Grand Canal entrance over by San Gregorio, very near what is today the Salute. And this chain could be lifted then or lowered in case of invaders. In 982, the Doge gave an island called the Island of Cypresses to an abbot, Giovanni Morosini, to start a new Benedictine monastery, which was to become wealthier and stronger, called St. George the Greater, or San Giorgio Maggiore. Glassmaking techniques are starting to come in from Germany, and this is the beginning of the famous Murano glassmaking. Still thrives today.